Hi everyone, today's video is all about roundabout markings, and hopefully I'm going to be able to point out why I think that they're a big contributing factor to the roundabout risks that we share every day. Look at this marking here, for example. If you weren't turning left, would you go into the lane that my viewer's in? Perhaps, but that's not the case at this roundabout, and it's definitely not going to be the only confusing one.
Were you always going to be a doctor? I don't think so.
Now notice the lane that you thought was a left turn only could be going straight on towards the M40. Is this panic stations to get back to the left now? I think so for a lot of people. But it's this next point that I'm going to talk about which I think is the most confusing. This arrow to the left-hand lane, does it mean you're taking the next exit, or is it just pointing towards your direction of travel? Don't forget the previous marking that we saw to take the next exit was a left-turning arrow.
I used to be obsessed with music. Yes, I saw that. Took 2 years off.
To exit a roundabout, you generally move off to the left, so why wasn't there one there?
In my mid-20s to record a set.
And these two markings take the absolute biscuit. How can both lanes go in both directions? No wonder there's so many near misses on roundabouts with markings like this. The vehicle in front of my viewer thinks that they can head round to the right, and a Peugeot driver in lane 2 thinks that they can go ahead.
And I just berated her until she got me guitar lessons, right? As I described in chapter 2,
Now just to complete this debacle, have a look at the two road markings over here. They say it's a left turn to leave this exit.
have a life-size flag of John Bon Jovi in my bedroom.
Are you confused yet?
I want to be John Bon Jovi when I'm old.
The next problem that I'd like to point out with these markings is that they're not compulsory. And I think this makes the road planners a little haphazard with the appointment of these markings. If you don't follow the markings though, and there was a collision, you're more than likely to be held responsible. But who would have been responsible in the first clip we saw? It's only when there's an added turn left, a head only, or turn right that they then become compulsory. It's not compulsory when there's an added road name or place to the marking, which is exactly what we saw in the first clip. Look at the markings on the floor. Does this driver in front think that they can continue further round because there's no left turn arrow? And I would have also expected the M60 to be the first junction. But it's not. We've just passed the town centre one.
Totally. Thank you, Fiona. Lucy, not your real name, in Godalming in Surrey. Hello.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Now, you've got the best example of the day because you've got identical twins.
Here's an example of floor markings without arrows, but it still causes problems. All three lanes can head onto the A419, which is the first exit on the left. This is quite unusual, and it catches the driver of the Nissan Juke out. So my viewer's effectively trying to head here, but I don't think I would have been in the same position with the driver of this Nissan being next to me. Remember, pocket of space. It's a nice save by my viewer in the end, but they really shouldn't have got themselves there in the first place. They end up taking a safer option and just go round a roundabout again. Unfortunately, there's a large percentage of drivers who act just like the driver of that Nissan Juke. Do you think the unusual nature of 3 lanes heading round to the left was a big factor there? The road markings on this roundabout do seem a little better for me, but there's still no left turning arrow when these left 2 lanes become the next exit off. Do you think it would be confusing if this arrow and the one to its left were left turners? With the examples we've seen in some of the other clips, would some drivers think that they could go past the first exit? And could both of these straight-on arrows be turned into left turners? I think the markings on this roundabout give a pretty good example of how things should be done. We still have a problem though with an idiot in lane 3. Even if the road markings are good, it will always be your responsibility to look out for this. The inconsistencies with the road markings are confusing for full licence holders, so no wonder learner drivers have a problem with them. The road planners have made a hash of this junction also. This marking, for example, shows a diverge arrow indicating an exit slip road or the start of a lane for turning traffic. It's not the case here though. We can see the green sign over to the left says that the left lane can go ahead and it turns left. I think this diverge arrow is an old marking they've failed to remove. And the reason why I say that is the marking in front of my viewer now in between lane 1 and 2. This just causes utter conflict. If the highways engineers didn't see this when they signed this job off, they shouldn't be in this job. Simply awful. Another major problem with the road markings in the UK is the absolute state of them. They're so poorly maintained, they're actually worthless. Having a pocket of space in your mind always works though. Only just in this situation, my viewer should have done a little better there. So are there any solutions? Perhaps. Let's go back to the first clip and I'll show you what I think. I haven't thought about this in great detail, but perhaps you could use a number system. If the lane that you are in is heading off at the next exit, perhaps a number 1 in the lane would help. And anything further round could be numbered accordingly. This would obviously change as you progress further round the roundabout. So say for example, if you were taking the third exit, once you pass the first junction, it's simple, you look for the number 2. So my viewer at this point would be fine, but they would understand that there's another lane to the left that can also turn with them.
I used to be obsessed with music.
Yes, I saw that. You took 2 years off, I think, to tour yourself.
Yeah, I took at least a year off medicine in my mid-20s.
My viewer's taking the next junction off, so it's a good idea to move back to the left, because the 1 is in this lane.
To record a solo EP and go around the country playing it. I love it. I think I wanted to be a rock and roll star when I was 7.
You can only safely head off the roundabout when you're in a lane that's marked with a number 1. This may stop the driver of the Peugeot doing what they did. But then again, don't forget what I said earlier. It's your responsibility still to spot people like this. As always, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on my number system. Keep safe everyone. I hope to see you soon.